become invested in things that are good for them, good for the community as well. So when we take a look at exhibiting leadership, if children are missing most of these assets, half of those children are going to exhibit leadership, 48%. Now I looked at that and I thought, that seems really high to me. Because if I have 10 kids that are missing most of these assets, half of these kids are going to exhibit leadership. Well, you read, there's an asterisk into these studies. You read further on and what you find is, yeah, these kids are exhibiting leadership, but they're the leaders of your gangs, they're pushing your drugs, they're the bullies, things like that. Versus if a child has 31 to 40 of these developmental assets, almost 87, almost 90% of these kids are going to not only exhibit leadership, they're going to exhibit positive leadership. Okay? Maintaining good health, again, proper hygiene, exercise, taking care of yourself. So the program takes kind of a holistic view of the individual as well, which I appreciate. So the spiritual, physical, emotional well-being is looked at. And so again, if a child is missing most of these assets, 27% of those kids are going to maintain good health versus almost 90% if they have 31 to 40 of the assets. Valuing diversity, this is celebrating people that are different than you, whether that be race, religion, whatever that looks like, goes from 39% up to 90%. So again, that helps really, the whole valuing diversity really is kind of the issue that cuts down on bullying, things like that as well. So again, this is one study. Here's another study that was done on the power of the assets as they pertain to grade point average. So again, 0 to 10 of the assets, 11 to 20 of the assets, 21 to 30 of the assets, and 31 to 40 of the assets. Let's again take a look at the extremes. So on the left-hand side, if a child possesses 0 to 10 of these 40 developmental assets, those children are going to typically score 2.1 GPA. Versus if they have 31 to 40 of these essential assets, they're going to score 3.3 GPA. So again, increased success academically as well as in life. Okay? So what's going to happen is I'm coming back August 23rd, and we are going to do a facilitator training. And what that looks like is that will be a 4-hour training. We have not set the time yet because Clay wants to value you all and your input to take a look at what on that day is going to be the best time for us to do that facilitator training. So that facilitator training will come, and that will allow individuals like yourself or people within your purview, principal, you're probably not going to be running this group, to be real honest, but you have staff that maybe can, or you have very active parents that are like, you know what, I have that parent that's always there, that's really involved. I would love to respect them and to raise them up within our school system, and they can lead this class for other parents. So think about individuals like that you can have come to this 4-hour facilitator training that we're going to do on August 23rd. The cool thing about the program is that those individuals that come and go to the training are then able to run the curriculum for parents, wherever that would be. If it be at your church, you want to do it at your church. If you want to do it for families that have to take parenting classes within the CPS program, whatever that looks like, you think about that. And that this grant is good for your entire community. And that's going to support all of the manuals that you need for 18 months. That grant is good for 18 months. So everything that you need, you're going to get for free. So it's a no-brainer, okay? Title I schools have to have a certain amount of their Title I money has to be spent on parent engagement. I'm not dogging you because I don't know what Albuquerque Public APS is all about, but I do know that most public schools that are Title I do a terrible job with their federal appropriations that have to be mandated towards parent education. I love the fact that you have a parent coordinator that's been hired because that says there's effort, energy, and desire to get the parents engaged. Most school districts don't have that going on. So you should all be applauded about that. So we're going to come back. It's a 13-week evidence-based parenting program that you're going to run the parents through. Some of you may not be the ones that come back for the training, but you know people that will come back for the training, okay? So the curriculum, I can honestly say to you that I have never, ever, ever, ever heard that it's difficult to facilitate. It's very simple to facilitate, and part of that is because of the reason that we created it and where we created it. So we created it in Santa Ana, California, where 6 elementary school principals picked out lead parents on their campus that we were going to train. This was our pilot program that we were going to train, and those parents then ran the program for other parents. So it had to be kind of easy for those that have never run a group to be able to facilitate. The cool thing about the program that we have built in for sustainability is that once a parent goes through the program, if they have attended attended 10 or more of the 13 sessions, they are then allowed to help facilitate it the next time that it's offered. So we're building sustainability, and people are duplicating themselves within your community. And I love that part of it. We're watching parents get really excited, start to lead groups, and it's really kind of good. It helps them along the way. So I'm going to come back. Each of the 13 weeks, there's simply 5 steps that we'll walk you through that you will learn. Those 5 steps are a part of each one of the 13 weeks. So once you know how those 5 steps work, you can run the curriculum. So let me just quickly talk about those. So the first one is called Join the Club. This is where there's some type of icebreaker. The parents really get to know one another. One of the things that came out of the third-party evaluation is that when parents start this program, they don't stop. As a matter of fact, they continue, and then they're like, what's next? Because it really builds community. When you think about a single mom living in an apartment complex, raising 3 children on her own, when she comes into a group like this and realizes she's not so different, she has people that are willing to do life with her, it's like it breathes life into her. And so we're really seeing that. And that came out of our third-party evaluation. That's not just something I'm making up. So it's some type of icebreaker that helps the group get to know one another, as well as then ties into where are we going tonight within the curriculum. Session number 2 is called Add to Your Assets. This is where we have USB drives that you will be given. Those that come to the program, when they train the program, will be given a USB drive. On that USB drive are promotional materials. There are also all of the PowerPoint presentations that you need to run the program. Part of each night is a PowerPoint presentation that creates dialogue within the parents. Now I say facilitator because the person running these classes for the parents is not going to stand up and preach or speak to them for an hour and a half. Okay? It's going to be very discussion driven. It's stand up, get to know one another. It's very interactive. And so that's step number 2 is called Add to Your Assets. Step number 3 is called reaction time. That's where the parents are going to actually be, again, ask questions that's going to create dialogue. It's a lot of large group discussion that we break up into smaller groups, and I'll explain a lot of that at the training specifically, but I really want to give you an overview of what that's going to look like. Step number 4 is called Worth a Try. This is where they're going to practically apply what they're learning and say, how do I really do this in life? How do I do this in my home? And then step number 5 is just a wrap up. That's where we kind of tie a bow on it, maybe give them a teaser for what they're going to experience that next coming week, things like that. Okay, so those are those 5 simple steps. Those 5 steps are a part of each one of the weekly sessions. If you add those 5 steps up within the curriculum, you have the curriculum in front of you. It takes an hour to run the program. But we encourage you to run it for an hour and a half because that just gives you flexibility, okay? And when the parents start to talk, and let me tell you, they will start to talk, it's hard to get them to stop, and sometimes you don't want them to stop because it's really good dialogue that happens. And so we want to give you the ability to flex within that time frame. If you have an hour, it can be done very successfully, but you have to really watch your watch when you're doing it for an hour, okay? Plus, who doesn't like brownies? It builds in time for fellowship and food, okay? If you feed them, they will come. If you provide childcare, they will come. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about those as well. So let's take a look at what the 13 weekly sessions actually look like as well. I'm going to steal your orange folder for a minute. So if you open up your orange folder, we've laid out, it's in this middle page here, what the aim of each one of the 13 weekly sessions is about, if you kind of want to read it in fuller detail, but I'm going to go over real quickly what those 13 weekly sessions look like. So session number 1, this is where the group is going to, what are we going to do for the next 13 weeks? What is this actually going to look like? They're going to be given a teaser. They're just going to briefly be able to touch on what are the 40 developmental assets, and we do that in some very creative ways. One of the ways we do that with the parents is we play Jenga. You're all familiar with Jenga, the blocks? So we play Jenga, parents pull out a block, it's got asset number 6, we talk about what is asset number 6. Asset number 6 is parent involvement in schooling. So what would a child's life look like if this asset was not present? We continue to talk about that as a group. We play Jenga, we pull out asset number 2. Asset number 2 is positive family communication. What would a child's life look like if this asset was not present? So we're playing this as a group. They're discussing, they're seeing a little bit of how important these assets are. Then what happens to my stack of blocks as we play?
Becomes weaker.
It falls, right? And so again, it's a very good visual that just like this stack of blocks, is not able to sustain itself when these assets are missing. The same is true of our children. When these assets are missing in their life crumbles for them, okay? So again, it's very practical ways that we're teaching these families through a lot of word pictures, things like that. So that's session number 1. Session number 2 is my favorite as a person with counseling background, but it's an introspective piece. So there we take a look at who are you as an individual. Did you have 2 parents that poured into your life and helped you become the person that you are, or did you come from a home where you had an angry, absent, abusive, alcoholic dad that showed up for your birthday, and then when he did, he beat you? Both those negatives and the positives have made you who you are as an individual. If you stop those negative cycles and build on the positive ones, you will be a better parent because of that. One of the things I love about this program is that it is not shame-based. So a parent is not going to come every week learning or feeling what a terrible job they're doing as a parent. They're going to be very uplifted, very empowered through this program. Then as you'll see, your list of 40 developmental assets are broken up into 8 different subcategories. And so what the next 8 weeks, weeks 3 through 10, what we take a look at are each of those subcategories. Okay, so week number 3, we're going to take a look at the subcategory of support, and all of the assets that fall under this idea of children needing support. So we're going to take a look at family support, positive family communication, other adult relationships, which many of us know as maybe mentors, family members, things like that. A caring neighborhood, a caring school climate, and parent involvement in schooling. The next week, we're going to take a look at empowerment. We're going to take a look at the fact that community that values youth is good for kids, youth as resources, service to others, and safety. Now, one of the things we talk about at this training is how can you involve individuals from the community. I love to see that we have police officers here. One of the best things to do is maybe the night that you're going to talk about safety, bring one of the local police officers in to present to the parents and say, hey, here's how Albuquerque runs. Here's places that are not safe for your kids. That store that's on the corner of First and Main, I don't know if you have a First and Main, most cities do, but there's drug deals that go on there. So, it's just a really good time to help educate the parents about the safety of their kids. So we talk about that within the training about how to bring people from the community in to really begin to help the parents as well. Session number 5, we're going to talk about boundaries and expectations. Session number 6, we're going to talk about constructive use of time and why is it important that kids don't have too much time on their hands. We're going to talk, and I think it's interesting too, because I heard there's a number of pastors or people representing the faith community, but one of the things that this secular organization found is that children that come from a religious community do better than children that don't come from a religious community. Session number 7 is commitment to learning. We're going to take a look at those things that help children form a commitment to learning as well as commitment to learning within the house. We're going to also then, session 8, we're going to take a look at positive values. Session 9, we're going to take a look at social competence. Session number 10, we're going to take a look at positive identity. Then a session 11 and 12 is where we're going to take a look at where are you as a family doing well. Again, we celebrate those positives. Where are you doing well? And then we're also going to take a look at where are your areas of needed strength for like the next 3 months, 6 months as a family. No matter the best family in the world, okay, can always take a look at a few of these assets and raise them up. Then session number 13 is my favorite, well, one of my favorites, but that's a celebration. We believe that anytime you get a group of people that commit to doing something for 13 weeks in a community, that needs to be celebrated. So this can look like anything you want your community to have it look like. It can be anything from potluck to a full-blown graduation, okay? Let me show you and give you an example. This is one of my favorites. So we're in Fort Worth, Texas, Fort Worth ISD, Independent School District. We're their parenting program of choice in Fort Worth ISD. It started at this small school called Manuel Hata Elementary. It's smack dab in the middle of Fort Worth, incredibly impoverished school. So what happened is this local, and we deliver the curriculum anywhere. Again, we're in churches, we're in Boys and Girls Club, we're in YMCAs, we're in homeless women's shelters, we're in domestic violence shelters, we're in Starbucks. I mean, you name it. Anywhere that you can get a group of parents together, you can run this curriculum. But this was one of the schools that we're in, Manuel Hata. This principal realized she couldn't do it alone, and so she partnered with a local church that then helped to provide some of the manpower to feed the parents, as well as provide the child care, as well as to provide some of the individuals that would come